Hi, boys and girls. Let's continue with social studies this week. Our objectives are to understand the levels of government and that they can help you prepare to be an active citizen, as well as identify the role of citizens in their government and the importance of exercising our rights and responsibilities in our democracy. Let's review back from yesterday, or from earlier this week. The Constitution has divided our government into 3 levels. They are the federal, state, and local. Each level has its own leaders, jobs, and power. Today, we're going to dive into each of the 3 levels. Let's begin with the federal government. The Constitution divides the federal government into 3 branches. They are legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Each branch does a certain job in the government. Legislative branch. The legislative branch is called Congress. It is made up of 2 bodies, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Each state has 2 senators. The number of representatives is based on the state population. Senators and representatives are elected by the people in each state. Senators and representatives write bills that they hope will become laws for the whole country. Let's take a brief moment right here to summarize the main job of the legislative branch. That's right, the legislative branch, their main job is to create laws. Taking a look at page 33, we can see how a bill becomes a law. The first step is that an idea for a bill is developed. Then, members of the Senate or House of Representatives propose the bill. After that, the Senate and the House of Representatives vote to approve the bill. Keep in mind that the Senate and the House of Representatives are the 2 bodies that make up the legislative branch. Right now, they are working on making a bill become a law. After they vote to approve the bill, the president signs or vetoes the bill. If the president were to sign it, that means it can become a law. If the president were to veto it, that means it does not become a law. If the bill is vetoed, another vote can be taken. If more than 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives vote to approve it, the bill becomes a law. After analyzing this diagram, which elected officials are responsible for proposing bills, meaning presenting the bills to others to see if it should become a law? Pause right here to answer that question. That's right. Members of the Senate and the House of Representatives can propose a bill. Now, what happens if a president vetoes a bill? Pause right here to answer that. Correct. Another vote can still take place. If more than 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives vote to approve the bill, it can become a law. So the president can be overridden in this sense. This means the president doesn't have all the power in making sure that a bill does or does not become a law. Still referring to this diagram, can we discuss how the branches of government work together to make laws? Pause here to reflect. That's right. We know that the legislative branch is responsible for proposing and voting on a bill that could potentially become a law. We know that the executive branch, meaning the president and vice president, but specifically the president, can sign the bill into law or veto it. That's how the legislative and executive branch works together to create laws. Since we were just speaking about the president, let's focus on the executive branch. The executive branch includes the president, vice president, and members of the president's cabinet. This branch makes sure the laws are followed. The president is the leader of the country and meets with leaders from other countries. What is the main duty of the executive branch? Pause right here to reflect. I'm sure that you determined the main duty of the executive branch is to carry out the laws of our country. Let's continue reading about the third branch of the federal government for our nation. That is the judicial branch. The judicial branch is made up of the Supreme Court and other federal courts. The Supreme Court has 9 members who are chosen by the president. The Senate must vote on whether the justices, which is another word for judge, can serve on the Supreme Court. These justices serve for life. Their job is to make sure that the laws passed by Congress agree with the United States Constitution. Boys and girls, using your schema about what you know a judge does, can you tell what the main duty of the judicial branch is? Pause right here. That's right. The judicial branch is the one that interprets laws, meaning they decide whether or not they follow the Constitution and award consequences for American citizens who may break our laws. Now that we know about each of these 3 branches, what might happen if one of the branches did not carry out its duties or do its job? Pause right here. I'm sure you've reflected and thought that the governing process would most likely shut down. These 3 branches work together to make sure our government runs smoothly, to make sure that laws get passed and get carried out and get followed. And if one of these branches does not do their job, it could make living in the country a difficult situation. Let's focus on state government now. Many parts of the state government are modeled after the federal government. Sounds like it's going to be similar. All 50 states have the same 3 branches that are in the federal government. In other ways, the state governments differ from the federal governments and from each other. Boys and girls, we are going to notice some similarities between our state governments and our federal or national government. Well, let's see here. I already see that they have a state legislative branch. Let's read. Many state legislative branches are divided into 2 parts. The only state that does not have a 2-part legislature is Nebraska. Nebraska has a unicameral legislature, which means its legislative branch is not divided into smaller parts. In all states, the legislative branch proposes new bills they hope will become state laws. How is the state legislative branch similar to the federal legislative branch? Pause here to think about that. Correct. They both make laws. Well, how are they different? Oh, the federal legislative branch makes laws for the entire country, while the state legislative branch makes laws for just the state. Let's focus on state executive branch. The executive branch of each state is headed by a governor. Other positions in this branch vary by state. The citizens of the state elect the governor to serve, usually for 4 years. In terms of legislation, the governor has the power to sign a bill and make it into a state law or to veto the bill. How is the state executive branch similar to and different from the federal executive branch? Pause here to ponder that. Correct. The state executive branch is headed by someone who is referred to as the governor, just like the federal executive branch is headed by someone who is referred to as the president. Another thing that they have in common is that the leaders of each can either sign a bill into law or veto a bill. The difference is that a governor only rules a state while the president rules the entire country. And bills that are either vetoed or signed into law are either centralized to just one state for the governor or for the entire country for the president. Let's now read about the state judicial branch. The state judicial branch upholds the state laws. The highest court in each state is usually called the state Supreme Court. In some states, justices or judges are appointed, meaning that they are chosen. And others, people elect the justices, meaning they are voted on. Sometimes state laws conflict with federal laws that are part of the Constitution. These cases are decided by the United States Supreme Court, which is higher than state Supreme Courts. Ultimately, all state laws must follow the Constitution. Boys and girls, what similarities do you see between how the powers of the federal government are divided and how the powers of the state government are divided? Pause right here. Correct. Well, they both have legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Now, how do they differ? That's correct. State legislative, executive, and judicial branches focus on just the state, while the federal branches focus on the entire United States. Let's go ahead and now learn about local government. Local government. States are divided into smaller sections to make local decisions. These local governments have their own structures. Layers of local governments work with each other and with the state government. The local government provides services such as first responders, public parks, and road maintenance. Residents pay for these services through taxes. Cities decide how to best spend tax money by making a budget or a plan for spending money. Many local governments have a mayor and a city council. At city council meetings, the council votes on local laws and discusses issues important to the community. Community members can attend these meetings to voice their concerns and to find out about local issues. Let's take a look at this infographic here, which is an informational text feature to help us better understand departments of local government. Fire department provides ambulance, fire, and rescue services. Parks and Recreation Department maintains parks. Planning Department plans for city projects. Police Department keeps citizens safe. Public Health Department helps citizens fight disease. Building Inspection Department grants permits for new buildings and inspects plans. Environmental Services Department oversees garbage pickup and recycling. Finance Department collects taxes, handles city money. Maintenance Department repairs streets, signs, and traffic lights. Let's now ponder. How do you think what local governments do differs from what state and federal governments do? Pause here. That's right. After looking at our infographic and reading more about local government, we can see that local governments are involved in things that impact people and what they do every day, such as going to a park, attending school, driving down a nicely paved road, or even calling 911 for help. while state and federal governments are responsible for making laws that impact the entire state and the entire country. Great job. My last question for you today is, what are some powers that all levels of government have in common? Why do you think these powers are shared? Stop here to think about that. Well, I've noticed that local, state, and federal governments all have the power to tax its citizens and use this tax money to fund important services. Without this tax money, we wouldn't be able to have the services we need to keep us safe. So that's why they are very important and why they are shared. Boys and girls, it is now your turn. There are some activities for you to complete on the slides following this. Your first slide is, who is the leader? At the local, state, and national level, you're just going to click and drag the blue boxes into the correct location. Then you will show who makes the laws at the local, state, and national level. Remember, just click and drag the boxes into the correct spot. Finally, you'll talk about who interprets the laws or makes sure that they follow the Constitution of the United States and even award consequences for those who break the laws. You'll do this at the local, state, and national level by just clicking and dragging the boxes. Go ahead and show what you know.